Hey guys, Joe here, the Joe Madden Sports Podcast, joined again today by Coach James Young of Sports Grid. Coach, how's the day treating you?
It's good, Joe. Nice sunny day out here in the East Coast, so things are well. Looking forward to talking some NBA and a little bit of WNBA stuff today.
Well, I'm glad it's sunny there because it's sunny here as well. Definitely puts us in a better mood when that sun is shining. I know, at least for myself.
I agree. Sun makes a lot of things look better. So hopefully, around here in the Jersey Shore, we just hope that we get good weather on the weekends because that's where all the beach traffic comes.
Yeah, absolutely, Coach. Well, we saw last night's game. The Boston Celtics pulled it off in Boston in the NBA. What did you think of last night's game, Coach?
Well, I thought Boston came out and did what they were supposed to do. I thought Boston needed the game more than Golden State, to be honest with you. And Boston really threw a really hard knockout punch early in the game. I thought the game turned a little bit as Klay Thompson, for the first time in this series, started to get going offensively, knocking down threes, being a little bit more aggressive to the hoop. They had really good play out of Andrew Wiggins. Now, with Steph, there was a lot of good with Steph. The bad was two things. One was the three fouls he picked up in the first half. And the second thing, Joe, is, and I don't think this has been talked about a lot, is Boston really went at Steph when he was on defense. And it wasn't like soft stuff. They was taking him to the basket, to the hole, posting him up, and really doing a lot of damage to Steph in regards to defensively, making him work. And that's what you want to do against a team like Golden State, is you want the best player to work on the defensive end. Once you get into that third quarter, we all knew it was coming. If you were to just blindly just took the Warriors for the third quarter spread, three games in a row, blowout in the third quarter, got himself anyway. And you got a little bit concerned, Joe, that, Brown and Tatum didn't have breaks the entire third quarter. And, Golden State takes the lead after being down 12 at the break. So it was a little bit of concern, but Boston turned it on. And there's a couple of guys that deserve a lot of credit. Obviously, you could talk about Jaylen Brown, was fantastic in the first half, actually fantastic for the entire game. And we could talk a little bit about MVP odds because I disagree with the book right now. But we could also talk about the fact of the game that not only Marcus Smart had with the grit and the grind and the hustle, but Robert Williams was humongous for Boston last night, playing his coverage off of ball screens, rebounding, blocking shots, being that interior presence that really Golden State, Joe, they can't match up with that.
Yeah, absolutely. Phenomenal to see that out on the court. Now, what do you think of Steph Curry getting fallen on by Horford there? Do you think we can expect him to stay healthy for the rest of the finals here?
You know what, Joe? It's the middle of June. I don't know if anybody's truly 100% healthy, but you got to be concerned about Steph a little bit. If you're Golden State, you have to do things better defensively to help Steph out. Mainly, I thought they should have played a little bit more zone defense and hide him. Now, in the fourth quarter, you did see anytime they got action and he was on the top, like he guarding someone, you saw Andrew Wiggins or someone try and double and peel Steph off, and he would rotate to the weak side. So you got to watch that, folks. As you watch the game, see how they're playing coverage. If Steph is all alone on an island playing one-on-one, then you need to be looking at who he's guarding as the point prop, which in most cases, Joe, is going to be Marcus Smart, because he's not going to guard, obviously Jaylen Brown. Maybe if Pritchard or, Derek White were in the game, but mostly it's going to be Marcus Smart. So we have to see how that gets done. And also we have to look at the fact that, will Golden State go to a zone defense to try and slow up Boston? Because it just felt like they had their way, Boston, getting into the lane and also killing them on the offensive boards.
Yeah, it was quite the game last night. I know I was riding with Boston. I was happy to see them get that win and that cover. Higher scoring game last night. Now, when we look at tomorrow night's game, Friday's game, we've got the Boston Celtics coming in here right now, laying 4 points at home. We've got a total 214.5. Any thoughts here on this one?
Well, if you look at it, Joe, if this game was in Golden State, it would probably be a pick 'em or Boston -1. So you're looking at basically a 3.5 point window for it being a home game. So they're still thinking it's an even game. I think this now becomes a must-win for Golden State. I think for them to go down 3-1, even though they would have 2 games left and at home, would still be too much of an obstacle to overcome, because then you would look at, Boston in 6 games to win the series. So I do think it's a must-win game. I do think this thing gets level at 2-2. Couple things you look for is, does Clay continue to play better? What did he do with Draymond? Draymond has been, stop worrying. He should be doing podcasts like you're doing. He should be studying up on film and getting himself ready to play, because he just didn't look right last night. So Draymond's got to be much better. And let's see if Steve Curry does a couple other things. One, try to get Andrew Wiggins more plays involved, because he's just so dynamic, especially going to the basket. And what do you do about Iguodala? Do you start to play Kuminga? Do you start to play some of these younger guys? Because there are times when Golden State are playing 4 or 3-on-5 on defense. And meanwhile, if you're Boston, you're trying to go for the kill now at this point. You get the 3-1, it's basically just about over. But I do think Golden State finds a way to not only cover the spread, but win outright and get this thing 2-2 back to the Chase Center for Monday night after Friday night's game.
It would be great to see, because I do want an extended series here. Now, if Golden State is able to do what you think, do we see a higher scoring game or a lower scoring game where they're just shutting down Boston and this coach?
I do think for Golden State, they still have to outscore you. I think Boston was scoring really well, and you saw what happened, Joe. They had to get the game into a half-court game in the fourth quarter. So I still think it goes over that. If it's around that 213, 214 mark, 215, I would still take the over at this point, Joe. But watch the game. Last night's game was a prime example of, if you watched it and it was going over, and it got to 2:30 at the end of the third quarter, there was no way that game was going to get to 2:30 unless it got to overtime. So kind of pay attention, folks. Sometimes the book overinflates or think things are going to happen. Games always slow down in the fourth quarter, because you got to win with your defense. So if that line gets moving up live up to that high 220s, 230s, maybe look to take the under, especially if the game is tight.
Yeah, absolutely. That is great advice to offer up there, Coach, because I know in that fourth quarter, you are sweating those overs. And based on the pace of the first 3, they should come in, and sometimes they don't. So great point there. Now, I know you do follow the WNBA as well. Any teams that we should be looking at?
Well, right now, I think the 2 best teams are the Las Vegas Aces and the Connecticut Sun. They're probably the 2 premier teams in the WNBA. Obviously, the Sun have the reigning MVP. Aces just brought in Becky Hammond from the San Antonio Spurs, former great with the New York Liberty. So they're the cream of the crops. 2 teams to watch out for, one in the East, like 2 in the East, 1 in the West. Number 1, look at Seattle. They've had some COVID protocol stuff with both Sue Bird and Brianna Stewart. They're back healthy now. They just had a nice 12-point win versus the Atlanta Dream. So look at Seattle to start to make their move. In the East, watch what's going on with Elena Deladon. She played first half last night after missing the previous game versus Chicago, and she went out after the first quarter or so. She's missed some time in her WNBA career, so watch that for the Watson Mystics. And then lastly, the hometown team, New York Liberty. I got to know some of the people that coached Sabrina Ionescu in college, and they're playing a lot better, folks. Their record doesn't indicate it yet, but they've won 3 out of 4. They've moved Ionescu to the 2-guard spot. So if you find places that offer you props, player point props in the WNBA, look hard at Sabrina Ionescu. Had a game a couple of days ago. I think she had 26, 8, and 8, and shot 90% from the floor, which is unreal. I don't think I've ever seen that in my life. So look at the New York Liberty as well. Sandy Bordello, who was a coach formerly of the Phoenix Mercury, she's a really good coach. She's won championships. She's trying to change the culture with New York. So watch out for the New York Liberty down the stretch as they continue to get better and better and better.
Now, Coach, we were talking off air. We were talking about the value in betting women's basketball, because the lines sometimes aren't there, especially with the totals. And what are your thoughts on that, so you can explain it to everyone here?
Yeah, basically, most WNBA game lines totals will be somewhere in the 155 to 165 range. So they're averaging about anywhere between 38 and 42 points a quarter. No matter what is going on with that game, they still keep that moving forward. So if it's trending over, they'll still keep the line in that 38 to 42 point window for the third and fourth quarter. So there is a way that you can bet on WNBA live. You got to be watching the game, folks. Watch the flow, watch what's going on, and play it from there. The WNBA, some of these teams, folks, score over 90 points a game. Most of them are in the 80s, but most totals are sometimes in the 155 to 160 range.
Crazy.
You could make some good money before the game, and you can make some really good money live, beating the trends before the book figures out what to do with the number.
I love that. Great information there, Coach. As always, what's happening at Sports Grid for you this week?
Well, you see, I'm right behind me. I'm in studio. I'll jump on with Scotty Farrell at 3:25. You'll see me every day there. I'll jump on with our Canadian buddies, Gabe and Cam, at some point tonight. Doing something a little bit different for the NBA Finals. Will go on with In-Game Live at night with Scotty Wetzel and Joe Ranieri. I'll do that again tomorrow. I'll do it at halftime. So as halftime gets to the WNBA game, jump on the Sports Grid and take a look at as I'll kind of break down the first half, try to see where you can get some kind of winning edge in the second half. And I'll be on with John Shames on Betting Above the Rim at 10 o'clock Saturday morning. We'll kind of reset everything that's going on in the first four games, start to talk about Game 5, where you can get some series prices and odds. But also we'll start breaking down the NBA draft, and we'll talk about off-season news as well.
Fantastic, Coach. Have an amazing time on all of those shows. Can you let everyone know where to follow yourself and Sports Grid on social media?
Yeah, we are on sportsgrid.com. We have a YouTube channel, Sirius Channel 159. We have a bunch of radio affiliates. We're on Roku. We're on Samsung Plus. So you can catch us there. And just check us out. We have a lot of good content. I'm lucky enough to work with a great group of people that understand sports, and we try to give you different takes. And what you'll see is as I talk, as compared to a lot of other people in the spaces, I try to look at it as more of a coach's eye rather than an analytical eye. So check us out on Sports Grid. We've got a lot of good content.
Yeah, you guys are absolutely crushing it over there, Coach James. Thank you so much for joining me here. You guys make sure you go give Coach James Young a follow on Twitter as well. James, have a wonderful day.
Thanks, Joe. Thanks, everybody. Have a great day.
Thank you.